forward.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your co-host C Diesel. To let me have Mr. Lelouch V. How you doing, brother?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited. I get to kind of collide two parts of my world today, so that's always good. Again. This is part two. We've had you guys on before.
The sequel.
And you didn't hate being on here too much, so you were willing to come back for a second time. So I'm happy to see you guys. How you doing?
Good. No, awesome. Thanks for having us back. Sure.
Of course. So I know you guys wanted to get into just some different stuff you've been working on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to start with, I guess first and foremost, the thing that we've officially watched something that you guys have worked on being outside. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Outside of me.
Outside of me. Thank you.
I got you.
It was an interesting. I'll let you give like a synopsis of what it is to the audience that may not have seen it before. It's Halima because you directed and wrote it, correct?
Yes.
Wrote it and starred in it.
Can you guys? So basically, the synopsis of it is it's about a couple who are dealing with a loss, and the story kind of unfolds where you kind of figure out what exactly has happened. So basically, it's about a woman and a couple, her husband, dealing with her depression. And so that's
so is that
the basic.
Is that self-inspiration, or where did that story come from, or the motivation for it come from?
No, I mean, it's not about anyone specifically. Actually, I started writing it in 2020, and kind of the premise, inspiration was I wanted to write a film that I could produce and film during COVID. So it originally started as kind of a story about two people who were physically distant, and it kind of evolved into an emotional distance as well. So that was kind of where it came from.
Amazing.
That's definitely apparent in the film. Well, what about the casting process? Like, how did you decide to go with the guy that you brought on? I didn't. Let me get his name. Sorry.
Nikki Romanello. That's fine. Yeah. So I also did the casting, a lot of it. So, it's all in-house. I put the description of the story and kind of an open ethnicity for the character, the guy, the husband, and then age range, like 30s, early 40s. And we put it on Actors Access. And we actually got 230 something submissions, which was pretty amazing, just right off the bat, so people really want to work. And I looked at every single picture, every reel, every headshot, resume, all of it. And we sent out the scripts, we had people audition, we had a second round, and then we had a call back with about 5 to 7 people. And I read with each one of them. And it was really cool because I don't know if you're familiar with Actors Access, but you can put up notices, but now they have a virtual casting room because of COVID. So you can actually, within their platform, meet with people, audition them. They have a virtual waiting room. It's like really cool. And that was the first time that we did it that way. So I'm not going to get into all. There's a lot of stuff with the different guys and scheduling and all this. Sorry, what?
Process, I mean, just from the producing standpoint, the casting process, because CeeLo and I were also involved in that. And to me, just seeing all the tapes, and also for me, I know, when it's your written work, you have a very clear vision of how you've written it. And also because, that's was Halima's work. For me, to see so many different actors interpret it in different ways, that's, to me, like I said, so interesting when you're casting, is that you're like, wow, okay, like I did not see it that way. And then they kind of interpret it and make their own. But yeah, when we found Nikki, I mean, we were just like unanimous, like, yes, he is the one, which was also interesting because his background, correct me if I'm wrong, Halima, was more in like theater. Is that correct? Like, where a lot of his background is?
Yeah. He's done a lot of theater.
Stuff like that.
He's a dancer. He tap dances and he plays some instruments. So he's kind of a, one of those old timey type. Huh?
Yeah, I said that him tap dancing fits because I felt like he was tap dancing around your emotions the entire film. So
wow.
He was supposed to be. He did. He was
You're funny. You're funny. Oh, Nate, I'm assuming you've seen it already in its totality, right, Nate?
I'm sorry?
You've seen this short film, I'm assuming. Already,
yes.
Right?
Yes, I have.
Really what were your initial thoughts on it? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I think it's a really cool, just reflection. Cool isn't the right word. It's a good reflection on just how the struggle, I think, with mental health, it has so many stages, and also how I think the hardest thing about it is it not only affects the person who's going through it, but the people in their lives that, they love and love them. And just how I think that is the hardest thing about any mental health issues is that they affect more than just the person who's going through it. And I think that this film did a really good job of conveying that, how that struggle that an individual goes through, just affects every aspect of their life, and just how there's just so many different, stages and just what it takes to even get through a quote unquote normal day. I thought was very well conveyed.
Can you tell us about the process of actually filming this? Like how did that go for you guys?
So, I mean, actually it's funny, I know it's blurred out, but I am actually on the set of Outside of Me because it is my actual apartment.
I can see the blue cabinet.
Yeah. So actually it was funny. So how many was the cast and crew altogether? It was like 10 people, it felt like. I don't know, something around that number. And I mean, I do live in a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, and literally, I mean, I feel like it got stripped down to the studs. The oven got moved around. I mean, the furniture got moved out, and taping out the windows to get the lights. I mean, it was a full-on production. I had neighbors asking me for weeks after, were they filming some movie at your house? I was like, absolutely. But yeah, it was a full-on production because I know we had makeup, we had lighting, and we also had a director, correct? What was his name on it?
No, I directed it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who am I thinking of? Was he the 80s one?
The DP.
DP, yes, sorry.
Yes, director of photography, yeah.
Photography, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so it was, like I said, in such a small, I mean, this is an old apartment from the 1930s, such a small space to fit all that in. I thought was quite a feat.
Could you break down the differences between the regular director and the director of photography as far as their responsibilities?
Yeah, so the director of photography is really in charge of doing the shots. And in this case, he was also the cameraman. So it's kind of two people in one kind of job. So it's actually filming it, saying we're going to use this angle, we're going to do that. Whereas the director in general has the bigger picture of setting up, working more with the actors and the dialogue and all of the, it's a more encompassing role, which was challenging for me because I've directed some projects before, but not that I was starring in. I mean, doing a smaller role, but this one was literally I'm trying to get all this emotional stuff, but then the DP is come look at this, look at this shot again, and how was it? And I'm I don't know, So it was a very long day. We filmed that in one day. And when I wrote it more for at least 2 rooms, a bedroom, the other room, that's the dark room, we'll call it, no spoilers, and a hallway. And so we ended up, because we only had the one bedroom and just a little L-shaped hallway, we had to do a lot of camera tricks. The door that we use is the door to the bathroom, not to another room. And so there's a lot of tricks in that. I actually filmed the last very bit at my sister's house. She has 2 small kids. and I filmed that on my phone and then sent it in and edit it. And it works. Like, it looks very seamless to me. But yeah, we did a lot of that.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, a couple things. It's like I mean, I don't necessarily know too much about making a film out in LA or anything like that. But one thing that I commonly hear is like how difficult it is to try to both direct and star in something at the same time. So how difficult was that part of the process for you? Like,
I definitely think if I'm going to star in something, I don't want to direct it. Like, we have another short film, Sam and Diane. It's in a coffee shop, and I'm like the barista. I'm not the main two characters. And that, I mean, I didn't direct that, but it's easier to direct something that you have a smaller role in. Luckily, everybody was so good. Like, we had sound, we had lighting, we had makeup, like Nate was saying, and everybody was just really coming. We all just met that day. Like, we advertised for it. We got all these people on set, and we were just blessed that everybody was so good at their jobs, so nice, willing to work. And then Nikki was really good at, like, there were so many times in between scenes that I was trying to get my acting and like also trying to do the directing. At one point we had to go to lunch and I was like, I can't even eat because I'm like still thinking about the next shots and all that. So yeah, I mean, it was very difficult, but I learned a lot, and I enjoyed it. At the end of the night, I was like, yay, we did it. So
I know I've never asked you, Halima, but how is it? Because I know when you're creating something in your head, there's always like a vision of how it's going to be. You have like, you play the script frontwards, backwards, forwards. How was it like when you saw the end product compared to how you had imagined it? Did you feel like that was like the vision came through of what, you had originally had in mind?
That's
I'm saying, I know it's hard
question.
to look at like work compared to how you originally envisioned it.
It's hard because I watch a lot of TV and movies, and I really enjoy TV and movies a lot. Like, some people just watch them passively, but I really like to like really get lost in a story. It was more difficult because I was thinking about, I should have used this other take or something when I was watching it. But the good thing is, because I was also with the editor when they were working on it, and I saw the whole film, we had somebody actually contact us and volunteer to do the music. So I watched the whole film before we put any music in it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty good. And then when we added the music, like, he asked me what kind of songs I wanted. And I said, I kind of wanted a Sam Smith type vibe. I'm not the only one. I mean, I know, that kind of sad love song. And he just created something that was very similar to that song. So once we put the music in, I was like, oh my God, like, I was just in love with it. And it really took on a whole new life, and everything, the lighting, the acting, the music, the story, everything I thought worked so well that there's so many parts to it, but I thought it was really done well.
A question.
Go ahead. You first, bro. You first.
Okay. Obviously, you hear about like movies having huge, amazing budgets. I'm curious, like, how much did this short film cost to make in this totality?
20-something hundred.
2,500.
That's from the living to short. That checks out. That checks out.
Yeah,
because I'm sure, like, because you mentioned the score, like the score felt like a whole actual part of the story, because, like, I mean, a lot of it was you portraying your emotions, so the score kind of like really captured that. So I'm sure you had to fork up some cash with that, and then just the camera quality was absolutely there. It was noticeable how well those shots were for those. So I'm sure that wasn't cheap either. I got a question for you, Nick. No, go ahead. You first.
Oh, I was just gonna say one thing about what you were saying about the quality of the film. My mother has a best friend who's like our neighbor that she's known for like 60 years. Like, they went to middle school together. And so she's like, my second mother. And I showed her the film, and she watched it in a room by herself. And then she came out and she was like, that was like a real movie. She was like, I am so impressed. Like, she was like, she's like, that's better than some of the things I see on TV as far as the film quality. And I was like, yeah, the guy who filmed it. It's amazing. So.
Question for you, Nate. How did you feel like, volunteering your space for this? Like, I know, like me, I'm the type of person that like, I am very particular about my living space. So to have people in it it's a thing for me. Like I have to mentally prepare for that. How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just basically surrendered the space because everything was, I have about like 50 plants behind me right now. They were all, they just did not go with the vibe of the space. There was not going to be living, it's like a jungle in this room. And, it's like not the vibe, it's not the set. Yeah, just like I said, I just went with the flow. But I wanted to say though, one of the things that I felt was so great about this shoot is that I know this is the second one, Sam and Diane being the first one that we've done with Esther Egg. But really, I feel like these shorts are so important because there's no better place to just really see how every single element comes together. And I know that of course, like if you were going to film school, you'd learn this as well, but it's really cool to just see it when it's like, this is like the real world. Like this is actually something we're making. This is not for a class. Like this is not theoretical. Like this is actually everyone's, and these are all real professionals. And I think, because we also had a couple PAs on there, and I would say to anyone who's watching this is like, how can I, where do I even start? Even if you could be involved as a PA on a short like this, like just from watching, just from being part of it, even though you'll probably be doing the Starbucks run, like that'll be your job, taking care of the craft table, you're going to learn so much. And I know I've learned so much just by being present. And I see every single project you are working on as like another building block to take what you learned with that project and apply it to all future projects. So to me, there's no such thing as like a project that's too small or the budget's too small. Just always think of it as like, what can I learn here? And what can I take to make whatever project I work on next an even better one?
Mm-hmm. So for the people seeing this, how did you find your PAs so they know how to try to like go up on that route of becoming a PA?
You want to answer that, Helena?
So one of the sites we used, and CeeLo did most of the notices for that. I believe it's called ShareGrid, and you can post for crew members as well as like equipment. So we rented lights and mics and different things like that. And as far as the PA, also amazing how many people just really, really, really want to work. We have a PA, her name was Alexa. She drove from Arizona.
Yeah.
Drove to LA for this.
Yes.
And these were not paid PAs. These are volunteers just for experience and credit. And we could have done it without her. Like each person was so integral. She stayed late. We went and did some extra footage that ended up being like the photos that we showed at the beginning, like the slideshow. So it was just, it was amazing.
Just to add on that really quick, I feel too, this shoot, it reminded me too of just how I think everyone knows the creative process is a big part of filmmaking. I think a lot of people think that's the only part of it, when the other side of the coin is the logistics. Where are we renting this equipment? Who's going to go pick it up? At what time is everyone going to, what's the call time? All these logistics of like, okay, the lighting, who's going to, we have to find someone for makeup. All these things have to come together and they have to be organized. And that's what even like, I know as creative people, we're kind of tend to be painted as like not the most organized because we're so creative. We're just, these like artists, but it's like in film, you do have to be so organized, and, punctuality is so important. And also just realizing that a lot of it is even just like the repetition, when, especially I remember, during filming, because it is such a small set, to have that many people and everyone has to go radio silent, obviously, when, they're doing the takes and it's in a really cramped space. And, just as draining as that is for the actor, but also making sure that that you're in for a very long day. It can be a little monotonous depending on your role in it. But all those things are very necessary to make a film. And like I said, I think a lot of people just think it's all the fun, cool, creative aspects. And those are, yes, very important, but it is a lot of tedium, absolutely, as well.
That's amazing. Oh, go ahead.
My next question is like, so with some of the scenes, like were there any scenes that were harder to film than others? Like, like some that took like more work or more attempts to get, or was it like a simple process for you guys?
Was there anything that was like the hardest for you to get through, Halima? That you remember?
I think it was just like every scene, because we had a very limited amount of space. So we had to finish this scene before it wasn't like, okay, let's move to another room. It's all in this room. So we gotta get all this done and then go to this room. And then, like we said, like Nate was saying, we have other people on set. So people are in the kitchen, but it's like, oh, we can still see your foot. Oh, we can see your shadow, so it was stuff like that. But yeah, I can't think of, the final scene before the end when we're on the couch, that took a lot of just emotional effort. And then I also told everybody to leave except for the cameraman and the sound, because it's hard to get in that space with people watching you. So everybody went into another room, the bedroom. But that was challenging. But yeah, everybody was really on point. So
me being an editor, I'm curious as to the process you went through with communicating to the video editor, like what kind of, maybe like adding in a certain light or with the metrics or any other creative edits or things like that he may have added in. How did you go about communicating that with him? Or him or her, one or other?
So the good thing about it was the DP was also the editor, which is the same thing that we did on Sam and Diane. So the person filming it, they're on set, they see everything that's going on, they know, the general vibe. And so he was still in LA and I came back to Texas. And so he sent me like, okay, here's the whole thing. He just kind of like picked his idea of the shot. So we talked about it beforehand when he was the DP. We went through all of it before we even shot it, the order of the scenes and what I kind of wanted to do with it. So once he did the editing, it was pretty smooth. And there was just a couple of things where I was like, okay, that lingered, that was too long, or let that scene go longer, that kind of stuff. And then adding the music and the sound effects, like the phone ringing, and that's little things that you notice after, because I had someone actually call my phone, but I had the same person call me twice. So there is a shot of the phone and you look at it and it's the same number. So when he was editing, I'm like, can you kind of do some phasing out of that face of the phone so you can't see?
Right.
We didn't use a green screen. now I know, okay, should have used a green screen. And then there's another sound effect where someone said it sounded like a cat. And I'm like, it's a baby crying. And they're like, it sounds like a cat. So yeah.
Oh, the scene where you were working out. And,
yeah.
I knew it was a baby, but I can see how somebody could mistake it for a cat.
Yeah, I was like, that's an interesting baby sound. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, well, we got a special guest entering just soon, possibly.
I'm gonna cut her in regardless.
Random question. How many times did someone say in the process of filming this, we'll fix that in post, just out of curiosity? Like, is that something that you guys said a lot, or?
I don't.
People say that about sound, but then the sound guy will be like, no, you won't. Like, that's not gonna work. At one point, I remember we did have to stop filming because there was a dog barking on the street outside. And the sound guy's like, he's still barking. And we're like, we can't hear it. He's like, he's still barking. And so somebody's like, go outside and tell the lady to move her dog. And we're like looking out the window like, we didn't go outside. We're like, I think they're going to stop. And then people pulled up on their bikes and they were talking. And so we kind of just told them, oh, we're trying to film something in here. And they were really nice about it. But yeah. Sound issues.
That's hell. That is absolute hell. Trying to do that, trying to edit all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to say this building is so old. I can literally hear when my neighbor's upstairs, his phone rings, and I can hear his conversations. Not that I'm listening in, but I'm seeing these old houses have zero insulation. So it's just, I mean, someone on the street talking, it sounds like they're literally right next to you. It's bizarre. But that does not make for easy filming, that's for sure. So
I think that phrase is just for us, Otis. I think we say that a lot. Well, I say that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, Charlie says it because me and Ethan have to tend to mess up on things, and he's got to fix our mistakes.
No. I was just gonna add really quick.
Fix it in post.
One of the things that I think working on like Sam and Diane and outside of me, like I think that's so encouraging. It's just that, you know, it's a simpler project, but it's something that anyone can do now. Like anyone could figure out, like I said, we said the budget was $2,500. And it's so great to work on something where you can actually bring it to life, because that's one thing we've learned with, you know, the feature films is that there are so many things outside of your control. There will be so many roadblocks, and then you get a green light and there's another roadblock. And it's so great to be able to do something where you have all that control and you make it happen. I mean, that's exactly what Halima did. You know, she made it happen, and that's just so rewarding to be able to see that come to life, and you have total control over that. Whereas, you know, when you are working on a really big, like I said, feature, it could be, that's why you hear about these, oh, they've been working on it for 10 years. I mean, you know, we always think and we forget, like some of these stories have literally been going, like making the rounds or hitting roadblocks for 10 plus years. So I would just say, like, you know, frustration in this industry is so common. And I think that's a great way to keep moving forward is, you know, yes, attach yourself to any big projects you can, but also have your own thing going. So that way you can at least keep moving forward with, you know, the stories you want to tell. So.
A question I have, you see like behind the scenes footage of movies, and they'll have what seems like 15 cameras in one room when they're filming, and the cameras will be like an inch away from the actor's face. Was your setup kind of like that? Or if it was, like, how do you act with a camera like a foot away from your face when you're trying to like focus on something?
Well, we only have one camera, so no multi-camera thing going on here. Yeah, I think it's just something you learn. As any actor, you just have to be as real as possible. And, you know, the camera's not there, the people aren't there. And it helps if you have someone else to work with. So those scenes, I did do, you know, a couple of those scenes by myself. 2 scenes where I'm on the couch and the phone calls and all of that. So that's really just, you have to have a lot of focus. And yeah, that's what I would say. Just, you have to ignore it. And I will kind of go back to what we were talking about at the beginning. You know, I was saying that it's not a story that I wrote based on like a specific thing about myself, but I have dealt with depression and isolation, suicidal thoughts, all those sort of things, like to really dark places where you feel like you're by yourself. No one is there, you know, you're alone. So those kind of things, for anybody who's experienced that, you just kind of tap into those feelings and bring it out where it's not acting. It's really just you kind of displaying your own life in that moment.
Now, early, Halima, you mentioned that you are a consumer of content. You enjoy watching series and movies and getting lost in a story. Do you feel like that helped you at all for this process of making this film, any other films you've made? Or do you think that's like, it's just a thing that people do?
No, I definitely think it helps me as a writer. I've never gone to writing school. I've been in writing workshops and writing groups, just people volunteering and that kind of thing. But ever since I was younger, I always wanted to write stories. And so when I watch movies and TV, I really pay attention to the storytelling. Like, what's the scene about? I mean, from acting class, you know, I learned like your scene objective, your overall objective. In every scene, you're trying to get something from the other person. You want them to accept you, or you want them to validate what you're saying or doing, or maybe you just want to hurt them or whatever. But there's always some kind of goal for every scene. And so when I'm writing a story, I think it really helps me to think about imagining it as a final product, a TV show, a movie. And I think it helps with natural dialogue and all of that, because sometimes you do see stuff on TV where you're like, people don't talk like that. People don't say that. That's not realistic. So I really try to make it where it's something you would say, you know, or do. So I think it helps.
No, I hear you there, because I watch, well, I don't watch them because they're all inaccurate. Like, there's so much content around people working in Chicago. Like, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire,
PD, Med, Fire.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's like this. Like, what part of Chicago is this that y'all live in? Because like, I don't remember seeing that when I was there. But so, but no, I do think that I agree with you there. Like, you're gonna make it as accurate to both the people watching and, you know, the people, or for you guys on your end filming it, is definitely important. A question for both producers here. Like, what was the experience like, you know, actually getting all of this stuff together for you? Like, was it difficult? Like, you know, you already had a set plan on what you guys wanted to do, or you kind of did what you needed to do as you did it?
I would say that is the great thing about pre-production, is that you have, you know, the time, and you take the time you need to get all that ironed out. So, and I mean, the more time you spend in pre-production, the better that's handled, then the smoother everything's going to go once you actually get to filming. I mean, like Halima said, the fact that all of this was shot in one day, I think speaks to the power of organizing. Like I said, going back to those logistics, like really, you know, focusing on that, and everything basically went off without a hitch. I don't think there was any major hiccups. There was like, oh, this is going to throw everything off. Just because I said, like, everything was taken into account beforehand. And I think, you know, even the fact that this was still like peak pandemic, you know, so it was not easy for a lot of things, and, you know, we still pulled it off. So I think if, you know, we can shoot 2 productions in, you know, during a pandemic, I mean, it's going to be crazy when we go to our next one, you know, when it's like, wow, we're out of this. It's just going to be a whole different world. So.
We're never going to be out of this.
It's like, yeah, I'm not sure when COVID is going to go away completely at this point, but that's for another podcast. I'm not going to dive into that here. Well, are you okay with us being kind of our thoughts on the film? Because at this point,
yes, absolutely.
Charlie, do you want to give any feedback first? Because, you know, I like to go last on this.
Right. So for me, whenever we talk about film on any kind of a review we do on anything, one of the number one things I get into is sound design and music. That's just a big thing for me. I think that makes most of your movie and conveys a lot of emotion there. I feel like the sound design and the music choices, now knowing that the guy that made the music, he created that himself, it was done very well, and it matched the scene, and as far as conveying the emotions there. I think you did an amazing job acting for a lot of those different parts, as far as conveying emotion, and the writing I feel like was relatively pretty strong as well, as far as you didn't say exactly what the situation was, but there was enough context that was implied through the writing where I was able to understand, oh, this is what she's going through, this is the situation here. And I got all that information without things being said verbatim. All in all, that was great. For an 11-minute short that took all this effort, I can appreciate how difficult, especially from an editor standpoint, how difficult this was to make, and it was done very well.
Yeah, for me, well, I did do a little backstory, and Charlie confirmed this. Charlie knows I have literally no qualms whatsoever in saying like if a thing is trash to the person who made it.
Oh God.
That has never been a fear of mine. In fact, I enjoy doing it if I have to, but I can't say that about your movie. Going along with Charlie, the audio composition was really well done. Like the way the music set the tone for the movie was masterful. I usually going into short films, I'm usually kind of like 50-50 on them because like some I've seen some really well made short films and some really horribly made ones, and I was kind of like, okay, like where is this going to be on that spectrum? And this is definitely on the higher end of that spectrum. It was really well done. Again, like I said, camera quality was really there. I was thoroughly convinced that your character feeling those emotions that you felt. It wasn't just like, you know, you sit like because again, like, there weren't a lot of dialogue in those scenes when you're solo, but I felt the emotion that you were trying to convey to the audience. It was visible and apparent, and of course the audio, the music helped with that too. But you showed that well. I felt your chemistry with Nikki was pretty solid as well. Like it didn't seem like, you know, it was a forced interaction in any of those scenes, especially the earlier scene where, like, you know, he's in the kitchen, you guys are in the kitchen, and he's like, you know, trying to tell you about his day. And he was like, please take this and go. Please take this and go, please.
Yeah.
I thought that scene was really well done. All in all, this is a high quality project. I really can't. I usually, because I watch it about 7 times, and I was watching to see if I can find anything that I could knock at, but I couldn't. I really didn't have a whole lot of holes to poke in this. So, congratulations on a very well made film.
I will say, as for the critique wise, the only thing I can really critique is from the editing standpoint. For me being an editor, is like the baby thing, for instance. I would have probably put maybe like kind of make that sounded like it was an echo more so than it was like right next to you, because it kind of felt out of place at that point in particular. Most of my shit just from like certain sound design stuff. I feel like maybe like a certain I felt like certain scenes kind of stood a little too long for me. That's just like little stuff that's more so subjective than it is objective, honestly. But that's about it.
Yeah,
I have to say,
you first, Nate. You first.
What you were saying about the chemistry, I thought that was so interesting because, you know, casting, of course, is you want the best person for the role, but it's also what is the chemistry, especially between the two leads, and just knowing that Halima and Nikki met for the first time that day, and they're doing this really intense scene work. And to me, it got because by the evening. It was funny just watching them interact because I felt like they had known each other for like 10 years, like they had, you know, dated for a while. It just seemed like, which is great when you can get to that level of chemistry with someone right off the bat. And I would just say too, that is like such an important part of producing is finding someone that can mesh, because even if, let's say Nikki had been a great actor, but there wasn't that chemistry and not that kind of like emotional understanding of how to interact, it would not have come off the same. So yeah, I thought the chemistry, especially like in person, it was really good.
If I can go before you. Finally, I'm talking. Hi guys. You know what? This project really was Halima's baby in every way. And she directed it, wrote it, and starred in it, which is very difficult as a creative person to do. And, you know, later on she said, I will never do that again. Am I right? I think that's what she said, right, Halima? It was hard, but yet it just came through so beautifully. And there was a real chemistry between the two of them, as everyone's saying. And I mean, I think Nikki did such a fantastic job with connecting, and Halima did such a fantastic job with connecting with him. Do you know, like it felt like there was a lot of history that was there. And I mean, I can't commend her more for all the work that she put into that project. She really held it in her hands and made it, and, you know,
yeah, absolutely,
formed it. Amazing.
I'll give you all the credit for that. Charlie, out of 10, what are you giving outside of me? How do you feel about it?
I'm probably giving it like 8.5.
Wow.
Man.
I'm actually right there. 8. I give it an 8, but no, 8.5 sounds cooler.
Okay.
8.5. I like that. No, but seriously, Charlie will tell you a 8.5 for me is a harder thing to come by. More than a 7 is usually hard to come by for me. So you guys really did a good job. But I can't thank you guys enough.
8.5 for him is usually a 9 for most people.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
a 7 for me is usually a 9.
I will say also an 8.5 is an 11. That's what I was gonna say is, again, back to my mother's best friend. She's over 70 years old, so it's like a different demographic. But when she was watching it, she was also like, oh, you know, that guy, like, how long have you known him? Are you involved with him? I'm like, I met him that day. And so people keep asking me that. And I'm like, yeah, that's something I feel so strongly about when I watch people on TV and movies and couples. The chemistry is either there or it isn't. And most people cannot fake it. And so, yeah, it's really important to sell a story.
And I feel like sometimes chemistry is really hard to tell in an audition, especially when the two of them didn't meet beforehand. You know, like, and I think a lot of auditions, that's what's happening is everything's done remotely. And it's even not so common right now that when you cast somebody, they even come in for a last read or a callback that's in person, not so much. And so we're taking some bit of chances, but in some ways, chemistry sometimes is not always felt in that moment, you know, and even if you feel it in that moment of casting, then when you go and you're actually doing the work and these two bodies really existing in the work and trying to work together, it gets lost. And so again, just, you know, like, it was amazing how well that played with all the chances we had to take with the pandemic with this.
I mean, again, it was a great turnout for that. If anybody's watching this, if you haven't seen it already, check out Outside of Me on YouTube. Google that. Make sure you look for Halima Aman. It's her name there.
I'll put the link in the comments or the description of the video.
Yeah. See, Charlie's ahead of me. Okay. So if you haven't seen it and you want to double check what we're saying, you can click that link and go straight to it. It's definitely something that's worth watching, and it's got a message that you don't necessarily see enough in media, like, you know, seeing someone legitimately working on their mental health in real time like that. So I definitely have something I recommend.
The thing I love about it, there's no magical fix for it at the end. It is what it is, and you're working through it. Yeah. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is realistic. Okay, cool. I'm with it now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys have anything else you guys want to promote or say while you're up here? Are you still here? I think you muted, CeeLo, still.
Well, such a bad announcer, but we do have a new project that we're working on. And we have finally gone through talks. I'm sorry, there's probably some noise in the background. But we finally have gone through talks, and we're very, very happy to say that our upcoming project right now is called Takeout. And it's about the life of Aronde McLean. This is he's a nurse actually who sent us this project using Instagram. So it's just Instagram doing its job basically. And it's an amazing project. So I don't know, I'm gonna let someone else tell you guys a little bit about what it's about.
So it's a biopic, essentially.
It is.
This is his story.
Oh man, I'm excited about that. Is there anything else y'all can tell us about it?
Can we?
It's his true life story, and he was a victim of gun violence. He was shot in the head when he was 10 years old, and he went through a process of being in a coma, having to learn how to walk and talk and those kind of things. So it was a really big struggle for him for many years. And now, like CeeLo said, he's a psychiatric nurse at a veterans hospital, and he works with people with PTSD and things like that is just remarkable. We, CeeLo and I went to Philadelphia, met him and his family, his mother, his father, his grandmother. Every one of them told us their side of what had happened. And he took us on a drive to where he was shot in this neighborhood he grew up in. And it's really something you can't believe. I mean, I've never been to a place like that. I was raised far away from the city, but this is like people lined on the street, drugs, homelessness, mental health issues. It's really, really devastating and unbelievable that a place just like that is in America, and a couple blocks away is, you know, just regular houses and stuff like that. So
that's amazing. That's a bounce.
It's going to be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a powerful story. I mean, from what it sounds like, of course, you can't give us too many details yet because it's still early. I have a question. Like, how do you guys go about selecting the projects that you do? Like, is there like a certain like criteria that you have to have? Like, how did you pick Outside of Me? How did you pick? And now going into this Arande story, like, how do you guys do that?
I wrote it. No.
You know, I would say there's constantly, it's interesting how often just projects come across our plate or offered to us. I think that the criteria for all three of us is really that at the end of the day, we really want to highlight and showcase stories that deal with humanity, the messiness of humanity, in a more uplifting way. I would say overall, in a way that, like, not ever giving like, you know, like, oh, everything's fine, Disneyland messaging, nothing like that, but just showing really true stories, treating them in a realistic way, but also in a way that, like I said, especially the story of the Arande, like, full of hope, and kind of showing, you know, the darkness and then also the light through that. I would say that is one of the biggest criteria of how we kind of select stories. Maybe you want to add that.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. I feel like, you know, life is very, very hard, or can be, but yet there's such beauty that arises out of the difficulties that someone can encounter. And so that is it. You know, you don't want to tell the story in which everything's peaches and cream, but you want to tell these stories in which it connects some way, in which someone can go like, wow, I just saw the darkest thing in the world, and yet I feel like something good can come out of stuff. You know, and I think that, I mean, I personally love to be obliterated in a film, you know, to bawl my eyes out, right? But if I can also leave there and somehow feel like something good came out of something, or, you know, like the world is there's still light in the world. I mean, I think at the heart, that would be the kind of films I want to make. And so in some ways, yeah, I mean, when we're looking at these projects, when I see that, I mean, it really just inspires me. And so the Arande story does that. Outside of Me did that. Yeah, I mean, we want to tell pain, but we want to tell stories in which there's still hope, as Halima said.
Amazing. That's great. I am thoroughly excited for that. I'm really excited to watch that one. If that's anywhere as good as the quality was for Outside of Me, I'm excited to see what that looks like. That's an amazing story.
You know, what was interesting? Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
What was interesting about some of the research we did for this project was just, we were talking to a cop who was involved in the situation, and this was 22 years ago, and he was crying.
Before you were born, Charlie.
I'm sorry?
No.
Ignore him. Go ahead.
I got that.
He was crying as he's telling us the story, just remembering seeing this 10-year-old boy lying there, you know? And so to like be able to capture the emotions, even as you're, you know, you're sitting there, like listening to this person, the emotions are still there. And so to be able to capture what people saw and the rawness of it, I mean, I'm super excited for it, but I'm also super excited to introduce the world to Arande. And I mean, this man is just doing amazing things, and you know where he's gonna go. I mean, to just really change we hope to change the mind of somebody, you know, and I'm just saying someone who's maybe headed in the wrong direction or something, but also to be able to give people hope that if something were to happen to them, that there's a possibility out there. And that's what he does every day in his, you know, in his job and in his mission. And we want to line up with that.
Mm. No, go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say really quick. I mean, I think what's so great about his story is that, and I think this is all great stories, they're timeless and timely. You know, the fact that gun violence, the fact that this did happen in the past, and obviously, as we all know, like that's an ever-present conversation in this country, something that has still not been solved. And so that's what I'm really excited about this too, is that we're also, you know, bringing this to the conversation, because this is an ongoing thing that affects so many people in this country, you know, even though this did happen in the past, but like I said, it's, you know, every year we just have so many examples of this. So that's what I'm also excited is how can we, you know, just, you know, add to this conversation of what we can do to, you know, fight against gun violence.
Right. And I know you guys at this point are really early in the process of making it, but like, how do you approach the casting process for this? Like, what do you look for in people that you want to bring onto this? Like, do you already have someone in mind? Like, you know, I hear Rondé, I think this actor, or is it like you're bringing in people to give you a feeling of that? Like, what is that part of the story like for you guys?
You know, I feel like our focus right now is bringing the team together. And actors are team members, but they're kind of separated in terms of what we're thinking of right now. I think it's going to be a really interesting process of casting a 10-year-old, you know, or someone around that age who can carry the gravitas. And something else with him is that he was actually very tiny. So to have someone who, I don't know how old the actor is going to end up being, but who looks 8. And all these things are happening. I think that's going to be very exciting, but I have no idea. You know, like I imagine we're going to go 2 ways. One of them is that we are just looking at actors who are out there at that, you know, at this age, who maybe can carry it. But we may also end up doing a casting call that is really just looking for something different. You know, that kid who isn't out there, who isn't acting, or who is looking to, and seeing if that works. But I think for everyone else, we can go to the tried and true methods. And so right now, I've just been kind of making lists. We would like some people who the audience already resonates with, as the, you know, I'm saying actors who they resonate with their performances, to come and be part of this project. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. I know that was a more of an obscure question. I'm just curious because I know. I mean, there might be some people that will end up watching this that's like, "Oh, I want to try my hand at acting. Maybe this is a project that is fit for me." Just kind of giving people a lane to try to at least reach out to you guys.
Well, okay, so I actually love hearing from people. You know, I feel like our company, what we're creating is not just a company for ourselves, and we're just looking for ways to just get ahead. We're a community. And I hope that as we do work, people will come forward and say, hey, you know, like Rondé did, here's a project in which I'm looking to get made. Is this something you can do? People who are wondering how to get started as actors or crew members or whatever, is the community. And, you know, like we're all here. I always say that in this business, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You could be, I was going to say someone controversial. You can be at the top. You could be an A-list actor. And you could just be starting, or, you know, like not even acting something else, but we all need each other. And so I would just really encourage people, if you're sitting here and you're wondering how to get started in the business, and, you know, you have something or there's something you're trying to do, go ahead and reach out to us. We're a community. We want to hear from more people. We want to encourage people to get started. We want to give people their start when it's possible.
That's dope. Well, again, thank you guys so much for coming. This has been an amazing conversation. I've been waiting to try to actually watch something you guys have actually created to kind of give some thoughts on it and insight in it. This is the first time we actually had something that we reviewed or talked about and had the creators on for it. So that was something we talked about doing for a while. So thank you guys so much for doing that. For anybody that's interested in Esther Egg, we're going to have their contact information in the description of the video below. Thank you guys for your support. We hope for your continued support, and we'll see you guys next time on the Then and Now podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to throw in a slide with my